Eleanor Voss had always been unremarkable at the Galactic Naval Academy, while her classmates brilliant Zenati with their firearms and tactical minds, quick-witted Drexians with their crystalline intelligence matrices, and the towering Krell warriors commanded attention in every simulation. Eleanor simply existed. She sat in the back of tactical courses, scored average marks, and blended into the sterile white corridors like a shadow. The instructors barely remembered her name, George Chen. Her only real friend at the academy often joked that she had a superpower, strategic invisibility. One day, he'd say over synthetic protein rations, "They're going to regret not noticing you." Eleanor would smile weakly and change the subject. She didn't believe in destiny or grand revelations. She was just trying to graduate. But the galaxy had other plans. The Scarveth incursion changed everything. When the insectoid collective breached the outer rim with their hive fleets, panic rippled through civilized space. Worlds fell in days. The Galactic Defense Force scrambled every available ship, including the Academy training vessels, throwing fresh graduates into the meat grinder of real warfare. Eleanor received her assignment with trembling hands. Communications officer aboard the frigate Resolute Dawn. Not a combat role. Not important. Just another faceless human doing support work while real warriors fought. The Resolute Dawn lasted 3 hours in its first engagement. When the Scarveth tore through their hull, Eleanor found herself in an escape pod with 7 other survivors, none of them human. The pod crashed on Zirian 4, a contested moon where the difference between front line and graveyard was measured in meters. That's where Eleanor stopped being unremarkable. Stranded behind enemy lines with a broken communicator, limited supplies, and survivors who looked at her with barely concealed disdain, Eleanor did what humans do best. She adapted. While the Zenati officer argued strategy, and the Krell warrior demanded they fight their way through, Eleanor scavenged. She studied the Scarveth patrol patterns, noticed their blind spots, identified their communication frequencies. They're predictable, she said quietly during one heated debate. Every 47 minutes, the southern ridge goes unmonitored for 90 seconds. The Zenati officer scoffed. Impossible. The Scarveth don't leave gaps. They do if you're looking, Eleanor replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I've been watching for 3 days. They followed her plan because they had no better option. And it worked. It kept working. Eleanor led them through Scarveth territory like a ghost. Always one step ahead, always finding the impossible route. She jerry-rigged a communicator from scavenged parts, established contact with friendly forces, and coordinated their extraction. By the time the rescue shuttle arrived, all 7 survivors were alive, a statistical impossibility in that theater of war. The Zenati officer reported her actions. Command took notice. They gave her a squad, then a platoon, then a company of special operations soldiers, the best the galaxy had to offer, and dropped her into the most impossible situations imaginable. Rescue missions behind enemy lines, sabotage operations in hive-controlled territory, asymmetric warfare where traditional tactics crumbled. Eleanor excelled at every single one. Her methods baffled alien commanders. She didn't fight like the Krell with their honorable charges, or the Zenati with their perfect tactical formations. She fought like a human, dirty, creative, relentless. She used deception, misdirection, psychological warfare. She turned the enemy's strengths into weaknesses. During the siege of Talver Station, she broadcast false surrender codes that caused 3 Scarveth hive ships to cannibalize each other's forces. At the Battle of Crimson Reach, she led a 12-soldier team to disable a strategic node everyone said required a full battalion. The soldiers under her command, initially skeptical of the unremarkable human, became fiercely loyal. They started calling her the Ghost for how she moved through enemy territory. Then the name evolved after she single-handedly extracted a trapped battalion from an impossible position. By weaponizing the planet's electromagnetic storms against the Scarveth sensors, the Krell warriors gave her a title in their tongue, Karash, Death's Shadow. It went viral. Soldiers across the galaxy started sharing combat footage, tactical analysis, and battlefield recordings. The human who nobody noticed at the academy became the subject of 1,000 war stories. Karash did the impossible at Zirian 4, Death's shadow turned the tide at crimson. Reach never underestimate a human in a corner. The irony wasn't lost on Eleanor. George found her after the war, when she'd been promoted to Strategic Operations Commander. They met at a memorial service for fallen soldiers, both older and carrying scars the Academy never prepared them for. Told you they'd regret not noticing you, George said with a sad smile. Eleanor looked out at the memorial stones, thousands of names etched in crystal. I wish they hadn't, she replied softly. I'd rather be unremarkable and have all these people still alive, but you saved millions. George countered. Those tactical innovations you developed their standard doctrine now. The whole galaxy fights differently because of you. Eleanor nodded, but the weight never left her shoulders. Fame felt hollow when built on ashes still. When the next crisis emerged, and there would always be another crisis, Eleanor knew she'd answer the call, not because she wanted glory or recognition, but because being unremarkable meant she saw what others missed, because being ignored taught her to observe, because being human meant she never stopped adapting. The galaxy had learned to fear the name Koresh, but Eleanor Voss was still the same person who sat in the back of tactical courses, watching, learning, waiting for the moment when being unremarkable became the greatest tactical advantage of all. In the end, that's what made humans dangerous. They didn't need to be noticed to change everything.